I've got to keep this short, but I think the first thing I'd like to say is I think it's a very, very important thing to train accountants. The reason for this is that accountants, as Anne was really saying, they can work in business, they can work in the NGO sector, they can work in universities, they can work in schools, they work in hospitals. So accountants are needed right across the whole of the economy. I even have a past student who works for the embassy of Venezuela. As you know, Venezuela is a country which is being destroyed by a gentleman by the name of Chavez. I hope we don't go the same way in Kenya. But anyway, the situation is that accountants are needed right across the whole of the economy. And even Andrew here, he started his days, he's no longer in accounting per se, but he started his days in PricewaterhouseCoopers. So the position is, many of the people that worked with me in Ernst & Young are now scattered all over the economy. It gives you a very, very good foundation for your future career. I think one thing which I would like, especially young people, but also all of us, we have to remember that Kenya works if you and I make it work. We live in a very competitive world. Ethiopia has started a textile industry there, and they want to have exports of $50 billion a year. They want to compete with Bangladesh. Our export processing zone in Athi River wants to produce goods of $1 billion a year. We have to realize that we have to compete with many countries around us. For the first time in 20 years, since records began, our exports to our neighboring countries have been less than our imports from those countries. We are providing employment to those people in those countries, and they're not giving similar employment to our people here in Kenya. So that's one thing. We have to make Kenya work. We have to really take our work seriously. You were talking about excellence. You know, when I started in Ernst & Young, I remember about 2 weeks into my work there, I at that time was living with my mother, or my mother was living with me. She used to teach at Kenya High School. And we met in the Hilton because in those days, EY was right in the center of Nairobi. And she asked me in the evening, how do you know how to do what you're doing in the office? If I went into an office, I wouldn't know what to do. I said, look, I've studied this stuff, and all I'm doing now is I'm applying what I learned. So you young people, please be an asset from day one. You don't have to have your hand held for 2 years, as is the case in many businesses, in the insurance industry, the banking industry, in SACCOs, etc., etc. Take your studies seriously. Be the best. We were talking about excellence. You've got to do your work excellently, but you've got to be ready to do your work excellently. I once had a past student, Oscar Nyango is his name, and he did mechanical engineering at JKU Labs. He was a very clever young man, and he was hell-bent in getting into PricewaterhouseCoopers. He didn't make it, and he thought this is the end of the world. I said, look, don't worry, Oscar, you get another Big Four, and I don't know whether Anne actually remembers this young man, but he actually got a job with Deloitte. I met him about a year later, or maybe 2 years later, in the center of Nairobi, and I said, well, how's it going, Oscar? I hate it, he said. What he meant was, he didn't want to audit the work of other people. he in fact wanted to do the work himself. But he persevered. And in those days, we had adopted international financial reporting standards with effect from the 1st of January 1999. The UK, the 27 countries of the European Union didn't do that until the 1st of January 2005. And he got a job with PricewaterhouseCoopers in London. He then travelled the world, got a job with PricewaterhouseCoopers in Silicon Valley, impressed companies there, and he's now the Chief Financial Officer of a company in Silicon Valley. You young people, you know, we have to remember that you can expand the education, you know, the number of people who theoretically on the books in Lanana are 335, but in fact there are 500 people in Form 1. It's very easy to expand our education by 20%, but unless the economy grows at 20%, those young people are not going to have jobs to do. So you young people get so well qualified that you can work anywhere in the world. That's what I tell all my students. A lot of students today, unfortunately, I was talking to a group in the Institute of Directors 3 weeks ago, and a lady said, look, corruption is even in our primary schools. And she's right. Now, grade 3, one of their exams is to go and clean the market, which you don't have to cheat for. But you also have to do a paper in mathematics. And in a school in Nairobi, they had the grade 3 exam. It's not public now, so you don't have to worry about it. But one of those boys then got in touch with a boy in Strathmore School, and of course all the boys in Strathmore School had it. This is what is being done everywhere today. I have a friend who's Oscar Ondeng is his name. He's a fourth year, he lectures a fourth year electrical engineering at the University of Nairobi. He gave his students a program to write. There were 88 students in the class. He put it through software. Of the 88 programs, 82 were copied from those original 6. He named one TUENDELEE. So we've got to be different. You young people, be examples to your colleagues. Don't cheat. Don't copy. Do it yourself. I have a lady who was getting 18 and 19 out of 20, and she then started copying. She got 11 out of 20. So we've got to understand, can you all work? If you and I make it work. But do we know what to do? Why do 6,000 Kenyans go to India every year to get medical treatment? Why? Can't we do that ourselves? Why do we have Chinese people building our roads? We've been producing engineers for 60 years. We've got to look at ourselves. Me. Do I make Kenya work? Because if I don't, I'm a parasite. And I'm not taking Kenya anywhere. And we've got to love our country. But love is not maneno. Love is action. So you young people, I give you that challenge. And you who mentor young people, be aware of this. Lead. Lead by example. Lead by example. Don't, you know, I could tell you so many stories, but I have to stop here. You know, Anne actually asked me to talk about AI, artificial intelligence in accounting. Whenever I talk to members of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants, I'm always telling them, learn Python, learn how to program. Because, you know, if you really are a person who understands machine language, deep learning, then you're going to be a real asset. We can never, as Anne was saying to us, we can never stop learning. We've got to learn every single day. And we've got to be better and better and better and more knowledgeable about everything. But don't forget, as I say, those of you who are like me, we're going to mentor. Let's lead our youth by example and not by words. Thank you very much indeed for